Greetings, all. I wanted to take a moment to talk about mantra because there's a lot of misunderstanding on this topic. Now, I can only say misunderstanding from a specific point of view, which is the traditional point of view of classical tantric yoga. So I'm going to talk about what mantra is and how it works according to classical tantric yoga. And that particular perspective on the subject is a very significant one, precisely because of all South Asian traditions. There's only really two that give this kind of immense significance to mantra, and that's the original Vedic tradition and the Tantric tradition. Now, these traditions, while they both give immense significance to mantra, do not give immense significance to the same mantras. In fact, the only mantra in common with the Vedic and the Tantric traditions is Om. Just that one syllable is the commonality between these two traditions. So Vedic mantras are said to be divinely revealed in the Veda, and Vedic mantras are part of a Brahminical religion, which was always, up until the 20th century, caste-based and gender-based, meaning to say that Vedic mantras were available only to twice-born males, which functionally ended up meaning Brahmin males. And the Tantric tradition is very different because the Tantric tradition gives mantra initiation to absolutely anyone who demonstrates that their interest in deep spirituality is genuine. So in the Tantric tradition, one receives initiation, which always includes mantra initiation. If one demonstrates the signs of Shaktipat, meaning that an awakening process has begun for this person, and they have a deep and genuine interest in spirituality, as opposed to kind of cultural interest in religion, let's say. And that person could belong to any of the three genders, could belong to any caste, could even be an outcast or untouchable, could have any social status. That none of those are were considered determining factors in Tantra, whereas they were very much determining factors in the Vedic religion. So that's an important distinction. Now, rather than get into the whole kind of history of it, which is huge, because let's remember that Tantra calls itself the way of mantras. So Tantric Shaivism calls itself the mantra marga, the path of mantras. And Tantric Buddhism calls itself the mantra yana, the vehicle of mantras. So the very kind of indigenous names for these tantric traditions emphasize the significance of mantras. But let's remember that mantras are, for these traditions, not just a string of syllables, that mantras are living beings, that mantras are deities, and deities are mantras. Okay, so the first thing to realize is that a statue of a deity can either just be a statue, just a hunk of wood or metal, or it can be alive, meaning to say if there's been a special ceremony to infuse prana in that statue, and that prana is maintained several times a day, or at least once a day, then that statue is treated like the living deity because of the prana activation, not because of the image itself. So the image itself is not the deity. The energy that's installed in the image is the deity. In the same way, you can have a yantra, like a mandala, a mystic diagram, which is just a symbolic representation, or you can install the energy of the deity in the yantra, and then it's alive. Okay. In the same way, then, a mantra is the sound body of a deity, but it's only the sound body of the deity if the deity's soul is in the mantra, if you see what I mean. So Abhinavagupta himself, greatest of all Shaiva Tantric authors, perhaps greatest of all Tantric authors, period. He argues that a mantra can be alive or dead, meaning to say Just like a human body can be a dead body or can be a living body, in the same way, the mantra can have the same form, the syllables and the words, but be devoid of energy, right? Like a dead body, he says, devoid of its of the energy of that specific deity. So a mantra is not inherently the vehicle for that particular vibration, pattern, or pulsation of consciousness that we call a deity. It is if it's alive. So a living mantra is called a Chaitanya mantra, meaning a conscious or living mantra. And a dead mantra is called a Jada mantra, literally inert. Okay, so this is why the tradition says, you can't just like pick up a book and get a mantra out of a book and have it be anything other than Jada, meaning to say it's inert. It's just some words, unless it's alive. Now, how do you get access to a living mantra? Okay, you can't pick a mantra for yourself. You can't pick a mantra off a web page, and you can't pick a mantra out of a book, because if you do, who's doing the picking? It's mind, ego, conditioning. Just different aspects of the same thing there. Mind/ego/conditioning is doing the picking, generally speaking, and that's not going to work. So there's only two ways that you can legitimately get a mantra, which is that the mantra is given to you by an authorized or qualified teacher or acharya or guru or representative of the tradition. Again, this just doesn't need to be a guru with an uppercase G, whatever that means, but just, any authorized or qualified representative of the tradition for whom mantras are alive, can pass on mantras in a living state. Even a kirtan artist, not just any kirtan artist, right? Not just somebody with a guitar who thought maybe I'll finally be successful if I sing in Sanskrit. No, I'm talking about like a kirtan artist who has or had a legitimate teacher, like Krishna Das had Neem Karoli Baba. So for Krishna Das, many of the mantras that he sings are alive. They are living forces within him because he received them in an alive state from his guru. So some people, go to a Krishna Das concert, and mantra transmission could happen. And this is where it gets interesting, because mantra transmission is not a mechanical or magical process. It's not the case that if a mantra is alive for me, I can be like, here it is, I'm now transmitting it to you, and now it's alive for you. It's just much more likely that it comes across in a living condition, that the transmission happens if the mantra is alive for me. 200% more likely. I don't know, but a lot more likely, because if the mantra is alive for me, it can land for you in an alive state, or maybe not if the transmission doesn't want to happen, because a mantra is, according to this tradition anyway, a living being. And that's really, really important. Ultimately, the mantra decides. The mantra chooses you. Okay? So that's why we can't say you could never get a living mantra from a book. It's just very, very, very unlikely. But it's possible that you open up a book and you see the mantra on the page, and that mantra, meaning the actual energy or essence of the mantra, chooses you, comes alive for you, leaps off the page, leaps into you, and starts working within you as a palpable, vibrating, living force. Now, if this happens, it's obvious. There is no question. If you have a doubt, then it hasn't happened, right? Because if a mantra spontaneously comes alive for you, then it's a very obvious experience, It's, you're utterly captivated by this mantra you're suddenly seeing on the page. It's sort of glowing in letters of gold. It seems to stand out. It grabs you, So if you just have a nice feeling when you look at this mantra, that's not it. You know, it has to be the mantra becoming a palpable living force. Okay, so again, if you receive a mantra from anyone for whom it is alive, then it's likely to be much more likely to come across in this living condition to you, right? But if it doesn't choose you, then it might not. Even if a mantra is completely alive for me and I share it with you, it might not land in this living condition in you if that mantra doesn't choose you, as it were. I don't want to give too much significance to this notion of agency, but it is there in the tradition, okay? So to be clear then, you never get mantra transmission from a teacher. You get mantra transmission through a teacher. So it's really, really not right the way people talk these days, because it overly, it gives too much significance to the agency of the teacher to say, I received mantra transmission from so-and-so, you know, whoever it is, from Krishnadas, from, you know, Sadhguru, from Paul Muller, from whoever that the person, you know, but that's the wrong phrase. You don't receive mantra transmission from someone, you receive it through someone. It's not the agency of the teacher, which is significant. It's the agency of the mantra deity, which is significant. Okay, by the way, all deities in Tantra, all deities are mantra, but not all mantras are deities, right? Because there's more mantras than there are deities. We'll talk about that some other time. Okay, so I hope this part is clear. There's two ways that you can legitimately work with a mantra: if the mantra chooses you, or if a qualified teacher transmits the mantra to you and it comes alive for you, which might not be immediately apparent, you know, in that case, because sometimes it needs to sort of grow. It needs to become obvious over time, right? But another way in which a mantra could choose you is through hearing a recording. You could hear a recording of a specific mantra on YouTube or Spotify or anywhere, because it's not as if technology is a barrier to the transmission of Shakti, right? Shakti means energy. Energy can transmit through technology, duh. But the point is that it's not about just you hear a recording and, oh, I like that song, that makes me feel good. It's rather that you hear this particular mantra in this particular recording and something deep inside you is sort of moved, or sort of starts to open, or is resonating at a very, very deep level, not just at an emotional level. Okay, so for example, if you find yourself crying tears, but they're not the tears of a specific nameable emotion, you know, and you're almost like, oh, I don't even know why I'm crying, and I feel, it's not one specific emotion, it's like all the emotions simultaneously. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so people, you know, are wondering, hey, if I don't have a mantra, what should I do? Well, you can look for a specific teacher who can transmit a mantra to you. You can just be open to the possibility of a mantra transmitting itself to you through, again, any given recording. You know, I myself am, there are a number of mantras that are alive for me, but I don't feel necessarily qualified to pass on just any of them. One mantra that I do feel comfortable sharing with you all is the mantra So Hum, or Hamsa, and that's really the same mantra, just sort of from two different points of view. We see So Hum used a little bit more often in the kind of Vedantic lineages, but it also appears in Tantra, and we see Hamsa used more often in Tantric yoga. So Soham means I am that, and Hamsa literally means swan, but comes to mean the individual soul, the jiva. But the reason that they're the same mantra is if you take Hamsa and you invert the syllables, then the sa, by Sanskrit grammatical rules, becomes so. So sa, S-A-H, sa, before hum, grammatically becomes so. Soham, Hamsa. Same mantra. Now, part of the reason that the Tantric tradition utilizes Hamsa is, well, there's a lot of reasons, but that hum goes with the inhale and sa goes with the exhale. Now, most people instinctively think of the inhale as sort of breath number one, that it's inhale, then exhale. So with this mantra, the hum syllable is the inhale because hum corresponds to I. And so hum, I am that. It's actually that am I, because hum is the I syllable. And sa is the sa or so is the that syllable. So if you can conceptualize exhale as breath number one, then it might make sense to use the so hum mantra. So you're exhaling so, and you're inhaling hum. So, exhale, hum, inhale. Remember, in Tantric yoga, inhale is always down. So, if you want to, by the way, it is kind of interesting, isn't it? That when we kind of pause and are wondering what to say, we instinctively, English speakers anyway, instinctively say the Soham mantra. We go, so, that is the Soham mantra. Anyway, Hamsa is again more tantric, but also is more intuitive if you conceptualize the inhale as breath number one. So hum, sa, hum, sa. So I invite you to do this mantra with the very first yukti of the VBT, described, remember, in verses 24 through 27, especially 24. And this is a mantra that is a kind of entry-level mantra for anyone doing Tantric yoga or a Tantric yoga-based practice, which is pretty much all of you. So you can try this. Remember the technique of verse 24 is inhaling from the upper limit of the energy body down into the base of the heart, then exhaling from the base of the heart to the upper limit of the energy body, back and forth. So then you can visualize a tiny point of light moving down and up, if you like. That's optional. And you can also sync the mantra to the breath in this way. So let's, well, let me address a couple questions, and then we'll do the practice together. Robin asks, does a living mantra need to be given by a living teacher? Generally speaking, yes. Now, a siddha or guru can come to you in a dream and give you a mantra, but that is very rare. A lot of people would like to say that's happened to them, but it is quite rare. So you need to consult with a living acharya or teacher to confirm that this mantra that possibly was transmitted to you in a dream and is possibly a mantra is in fact a mantra. So it's fairly rare, but it can happen. In general, we just default to receiving a living mantra from a living teacher. But again, recordings can sometimes transmit living mantras because we've seen the evidence of that. It's undeniable. Any other comments or questions? Let's see. Angie asks, isn't it important to choose the teacher who gives the mantra? Well, yes. You do choose your teacher, hopefully from choosing from a very deep place, not from a kind of mental preference place, but that's a different matter from choosing a mantra, right? You choose the teacher, and then the teacher can transmit a mantra. Somebody's asking, if you can have more than one mantra. Of course. But some mantras are meant to be generally japa mantras, not meditation mantras. So for example, a mantra like Om Hrim Shrim Mahadevyaya Namaha, that's a japa mantra. It's too long for a meditation mantra, for one thing. And other mantras are meditation mantras. And you should consult with your teacher on this matter. Angie asks, where do you get this information? Well, from many, many tantric sources. This is a central doctrine of Shaiva Tantra, that mantras are living beings, and as living beings, one of them can choose you, sort of like an angel deciding to become your guardian angel, but not quite like that, because of course, truly speaking, neither angels in the Judeo-Christian Muslim tradition nor mantras in the Tantric tradition, they can't be considered to have sort of minds or independent agency. They are vibrations of the one universal consciousness, but they are living beings in a way. So read chapter 3 of the Recognition Sutras for more on this. Here's an example. It's commonly known in the tradition, or in the classical tradition anyway, that if a teacher or acharya gives someone initiation, right? So they're utilizing mantras in this initiation, and if the person then later falls off the path or rejects the path, then the teacher has to do a special ritual to apologize to the mantras for putting them to work needlessly, which obviously doesn't make sense unless the mantras are living beings. Okay, so my battery's about to die, so we'll do the meditation, the Hamsa meditation, together in a separate short video in just a few minutes. Om.